This is your Illini Drive.
Joey Gelman, host, Chicago, Illinois.
Dan Collins, co-host, Chicago, Illinois.
Kevin McCarthy, social media man, Geneva, Illinois.
Jeff Omer, producer, Naperville, Illinois. Welcome into Illini Drive, your home on the way home for Illini Sports every Monday at 6. Joey Gelman alongside Dan Collins, Jeff Omer, and Kevin McCarthy. I think I went in a different order today. That sounded weird.
Yeah, you went the wrong way around the table. That's okay.
You know what? It's because UPTV is not here yet, and I'm off my game. I got to go through my emotions and my rundown, and we're missing a member here.
Just having a crazy case of the Mondays.
Yeah, I guess
sort of feel
that's
bad
true.
for the people because they're so used to getting to see us, and they won't get to see our bright and shining faces this week. And I even shaved for the people.
Yeah.
My face,
Dan didn't.
My face is soft. What is it? Smooth as a baby's butt. It's beautiful. And the people won't get to see it, so I'm sorry. Unless you want to stop by 512 East Green, you can stop by the radio booth and check us out.
Yeah. Follow us on Twitter at Illini Drive, at DI_sports. Show today starting off, we're going to talk a little Super Bowl, as that's the big, looming sporting event this week because Illini Sports is just not that fun to talk about to start out. So, but we'll have the bright spot because Eli Schwadron will come in at 6:40. He's going to talk Illini basketball with us, recap the Wisconsin loss, and going forward here, what this team needs to do to get back on track. They take on Rutgers next, and in between, I think we'll talk a little All-Star sporting event. The NHL All-Star game was this weekend. And talk about the state of All-Star games and kind of what this one did right and did wrong, and then maybe kind of assess Pro Bowls, All-Star games for baseball, basketball, and kind of figure that out and see what should change, what should go, and because there's a lot of issues with those games as more and more players just are deciding not to participate. And even before we get to Super Bowl, even what's weird about the hockey, before we talk about it, is the rule that if you miss the game, you're suspended the next game in regulation.
Arguably might be the worst rule in all the major sports.
We'll talk about that later, and also we'll get into every sports fan's favorite pastime, which is bashing the Pro Bowl. Everybody loves to bash the Pro Bowl.
There you go.
So let's start here with Super Bowl.
Yes.
Because we talk so much about the X's and O's of sports, we thought instead of thinking about and displaying our picks for Panthers and Broncos, we would go through a couple of the prop bets. And for those that are not familiar, those are the bets that most people make before the Super Bowl, but they can range from anything from the final score to the left eyebrow of Peyton Manning to anything you could possibly think of. Yeah.
Let me make this clear. The people who are actually putting money on this, like actually putting their hard-earned dollar on these questions, have a problem. We need to filter whoever answers these questions. We need to have a special corner of society for them.
Won't disclose the name, but I will say I know somebody who put a nice chunk of change on the coin toss.
I know. People do that.
Now, his theory was, and hear me out, he said, but it's 50-50. That might be even more than, that's probably better probability than if I actually bet the over-under or the point spread itself. It is 50-50.
You should never, but you should never, it's just so stupid. I mean, you're just completely guessing.
It's an absolute guess. I mean, that's what you, in that defense, that's technically what you're doing even with the game, but prop bets, this is fun. This is going to be good.
Sorry, I didn't mean to punch your mic. It's working. I think we're coming in mono here, so I'm trying to figure out how to fix it.
And we don't gamble here at the station. We're just going to do this via Monopoly money. That's
There
what we're
you
going to do.
But you still go to jail, right?
Yeah.
I would still want to send you to jail.
Don't pass go if you pick the wrong guy.
First prop bet, let's get into it. The dab. For those of you who don't know, that's that cool dance that Cam Newton does whenever he scores a touchdown, or not whenever, but oftentimes he throws his face into his elbow and he looks like an absolute boss when he does it. We're modeling for you on air, but the camera guy's not here today. Anyway, how many times will Cam Newton do the dab? How many times will the word dab be said on the broadcast, or dabbing? That also counts. Vegas has the over-under at 2.5.
That's so low. That's absolutely low.
Especially if it's a blowout, too.
I mean, I don't know about the broadcast.
But how many times it's said during the broadcast? So that means
said.
Yeah, so like Jim Nance has to say the word dab. That's like a 70-year-old guy saying the word dab.
If it's just said, I'm going under. It might be mentioned once. Like, he might go, and there goes the dab, but that's it. He won't say it again. He won't be like,
And
on
there
the second.
goes the dab.
Yeah, on the second touchdown, he won't go, and there's the dab again. If it's just the broadcast, I think I would have to go with the under.
Here's a good joke for golf fans. A tradition unlike any other. The dab.
There you go.
Anyway.
And Dab has champagne connections now because there were kids doing it at the Illini game a couple nights ago. They put them on the big jumbotron, like 2 little kids just boom.
Oh, kids! I was
Dab.
tweeting about it. Kids were hitting the
great.
dab hard. Well, anyway, so you're saying on the broadcast over under 2.5, it will be mentioned
Under.
Jeff,
Under as well.
Joey.
That seems low still to me.
But
On the
that means,
broadcast?
that means Jim Nance has to say the word dab or Phil Sims.
I think it's over.
3. You think
'Cause
it's
Phil
over?
Sims is a little crazy, so he may
3
he may just
times?
if they score, because they're going to score more than 3 times, I would think.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what might happen? They might show kids doing it on a jumbotron.
Right,
or
because Cam gives the ball to all the kids. So
They're going to dab.
they had that retirement home in Carolina who were doing the dab, so they might go, look who was dabbing this whole week following up to the Super
Yeah, because
Bowl.
they always do
Grandma
those weird
Maria.
stories. Yeah, I'm actually going to go the over on the dab count, although I think the under, I understand where you're coming from with the under, but I could see Jim Nance and Phil Sims getting kooky and talking about the dab, especially if Carolina wins by a lot.
Not going to change my pick, but since I said that, I do feel a little less confident.
There you go. Here's another good one. If Steph Curry is shown at all during the Super Bowl, which I imagine he will be because it's an off night for them. Of course, Steph Curry, a big Carolina Panther fan. If he is shown during the broadcast, what type of jersey will he be wearing? There are even odds that he will be wearing a personalized Carolina Steph Curry jersey. So if you bet on that, even straight up 1-1. Will he be wearing no jersey at all? If you bet that, 2-1 odds, or a Cam Newton jersey at 3-1, or any other Carolina jersey at 5-1. Thoughts?
I think he's definitely going with Cam Newton. He doesn't seem like the type. Maybe I don't watch enough Steph Curry off the court, but I don't think he's a personalized jersey guy. And I think if he's gonna be there, he's gonna back somebody up. I think he's gonna back up his boy Cam Newton. So I'm definitely going, if he's shown, Cam Newton.
I'm going to go with personalized because I just looked it up online. And because I remember him shooting around in a Panthers jersey, and it was a personalized Steph Curry Panthers jersey.
Dang it.
But you may be right, and he may be wanting to support the team at the game versus just trying to be a part of it.
Yeah,
even though he's a big
I will definitely say he will be
Charlotte guy.
wearing a jersey. I think no jersey, and it's definitely, he's not going to wear somebody else because he's not going to wear like Luke Kuechly. So there's nobody else he could wear.
But does
so,
little Riley have a matching little Curry jersey? Because that would make it even
I
better.
swear to God, if she is shown on the broadcast, I give up. That should be a prop bet. Will Riley Curry be there?
Yeah.
And will she get interviewed?
Yeah.
Good
But
grief.
if he's going to support somebody from the team, it's going to be the MVP of the team, which is Cam
yeah.
Newton.
Yeah, I think it's. Yeah, I'll actually say he's wearing the personalized Steph Curry jersey. I saw him wear it once. Take even odds there. Here's a good one. Will Mike Carey
We need Jeffs.
I think he's going with the personal jersey as well, guys.
personal jersey? I like it. That's what I like to hear. This is probably the funniest one. For those of you who don't know, the Super Bowl this year will be played at Levi's Stadium, which of course is in San Francisco. So will there be an earthquake during the game? The odds are at
Great.
10, they're at 10-1. You'd think it'd be a bigger long shot than that. Only 10-1.
Yeah, it should be like 50-1. That happened in the World Series.
Yeah, San Francisco.
Like
In the
30 plus
90s,
years
yeah.
ago or something. Yeah, I'm taking the no catastrophe.
Yeah, no catastrophe.
Yeah, no.
Can we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all good on that.
I mean, the
Okay.
power did go out at the Superdome last time, so you never know.
That's true.
This is a fantastic one. Will the Panthers player who scores first give the touchdown football to a boy or to a girl?
Ooh, see, that's almost like betting the coin toss. That's kind of 50-50.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go boy though.
I'm going to go girl because the couple ones I've seen in the past games, they always found a little girl right in the end zone.
Yeah, Cam has, you're right.
Well, I'm wondering, what if they just keep the ball instead and don't give it to anybody?
Then you've ruined Christmas.
No, it could be different though because it's the Super Bowl.
Oh,
Like
true.
they have been handing them out in the regular season and like they did a few in the playoffs, but since it's the Super Bowl, they may not hand it out. But that is not a part of
This
bet.
ball by Cam, sponsored by.
Yeah.
And they'll have an ad with it already.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doritos.
How many times will the Golden Gate Bridge be shown during the broadcast? The over-under is actually at a half, so you're literally just betting, will it be shown once or no?
Oh,
Yes.
over.
Yeah.
Over.
I would, if the over-under was at 1.5, I think I would take the over. I think it would be shown twice.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be shown once.
And they'll show old Candlestick and then come back around to Levi's. And
How many times will Archie Manning, Peyton's father, be shown on the TV broadcast? The over-under's at 1.5.
Oh man, that's so close. I think over because they're going to show him in the beginning, And then you might even see him during maybe some B-roll or when they mention it again. So they'll mention, Peyton Manning, he's trying to win his second Super Bowl and the legacy of the Mannings. Oh, there's Archie himself.
And if he wins, they'll definitely show him
If
again.
he wins or even loses, they'll probably show Dad's reaction. So over.
If it's a
Over,
close game, it's definitely an over. But maybe they get killed early, and then they show him the one time, and then he's done.
Nah, you would
They
think
show that too because he played for the Saints and there was nothing to
that's true.
But like I said,
you know who's used to getting
Archie,
their butts kicked?
Papa.
Yeah.
you would definitely think you see an intro and an outro though, regardless.
Yeah. Here's another good one. Where did it go?
It left us.
The CBS official, the guy that they bring in for the broadcast, like, Fox has Mike Pereira. CBS is Mike Carey, the famous referee. And there's a prop bet. Will Mike Carey be wrong about a challenge during the game? The odds are 11-10, so it's basically straight up. It's pretty close to straight up. Yes or no?
I think he's not going to be wrong on anything. Those guys, their success rate, I have to say, is pretty high. So to go against
Mike Carey's bad, though. He's pretty bad in comparison to Pereira, who gets ripped on a lot.
That's true.
I just saw recent, like they 538. It's always on ESPN. 538 did like an analysis of it, and CBS football broadcasts were the worst in terms of the number of things they got wrong, up against Fox, NBC, and ESPN.
Do you remember what the success rate was?
I don't remember, but I just remember they were the worst. But the odds are almost even, which is interesting.
I'm still going to go with, I'm going to trust the professional, even though he's screwed up at times. It's on a big stage. Get it right. I'm going to go with he has a clean game.
I'd probably say
Pereira is really good, though.
I like Pereira.
Yeah.
I think
Gets
he's got to
criticized
be
too much.
getting coached up like crazy this week in terms of prep for the broadcast to make sure he's not wrong. I can't imagine he gets a challenge wrong in the Super Bowl. Obviously he's not refereeing the game; he's on TV.
Right.
But that'd be really bad.
Yeah. Good point. Also, side note, whenever Pereira's wrong, which he's not doing the Super Bowl, but whenever he's wrong, he's actually right and the referees were wrong.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Anyway, next question.
And thinking about referees too, they had a funny thing because we can talk about it later, but with Calvin Johnson, impending retirement, they said the Calvin Johnson rule outlasted Calvin Johnson. It was kind of sad.
Good one.
Yeah, that's a tough moment for the NFL.
Yeah.
How about this? Will Peyton Manning be seen crying at any point during the broadcast? I think you're betting there if he wins or loses.
Okay, now does that include watery eyes, one teardrop? What constitutes as
How
crying?
many teardrops do you get?
Is one teardrop
Here-
crying?
There's a note. This is honest to God a note. It has to be live, so they
Okay.
can't show you like a still shot of earlier when they saw him crying. I'm almost gonna start crying laughing. This is so stupid. And the rule is you must clearly see a tear like rolling down his face. So like it can't just be a watery eye. A tear actually has to form,
Okay.
and the drop has to roll down. It doesn't say to roll down the face, but it has to be clearly a tear separated
Not a
from his
raindrop.
eye.
So
Yeah.
that even counts in the quick wipe away. I'm
Yeah.
still going to go yes. Because whether he wins or loses, I think he's going to with some kind of emotion.
Yeah, I think no. I think he's such a stoic guy, I'm going to say he gets real close but doesn't. I think he probably cries after, but I don't think we see it on TV. I don't know. Anybody got any different thoughts on that?
If he wins, because he's done probably if he wins, and you can see it. He's way more emotional than his brother, at least, Eli. Peyton actually has human emotion. So I would think he might shed a tear if he wins, but I don't know. They had some stat the other day, the Broncos are always like in blowouts in the Super Bowl, whether on the winning side or the losing side, so it could be determined quickly, but we'll have to wait and see.
Heads or tails?
Heads.
Heads, Joey.
It is tails.
Jeff.
Tails.
Who's flipping the coin?
Yeah, I always
Or maybe
go-
it'll float in the air and not flip again, like in the what
The
game is
Packers
that?
game.
The
The
Packers,
Packers
yeah,
Arizona
Packers
game.
and the Cardinals. If that just bothers me. They made that up. You can't just be like, "Oh, the coin toss wasn't proper." No, if you flip the coin up in the air, that's a user error.
I'm
That-
sure the rule
so
book has
bad.
something to say on that.
Thou shalt flip, something.
Anyway, what color Gatorade dumped on the coaches?
Oh, orange.
That's
Definitely.
that's the highest odds.
Definitely orange.
See, people were saying orange and blue because of Broncos Panthers, but is that also like the best tasting? Is that what? Because they said other teams have it too. It's not based on team colors.
Yeah, here
I don't know.
Here are all the odds. So
Nobody wants purple.
the best. These are the. I'm not going to read off all of the odds because it would take forever. But these are the order in most likely colored Gatorade to be dumped on coach to least likely: orange, blue, clear. What? Oh, they're implying
Like-
water, possibly.
Yeah.
It's not
No,
Gatorade.
there's a clear one now.
There's a clear Gatorade.
Yeah.
It says
like
what liquid will be
Thunder
what color will
something.
the liquid be, so it doesn't necessarily say Gatorade. So orange, blue, clear, yellow, red, green, purple.
Well, the thing is, when Kevin asked that question, automatically in my head, as soon as he said dump and Gatorade, I automatically just
Thirst
envisioned
quencher, clear
yeah,
Gatorade.
Yeah, I automatically envisioned like orange Gatorade. It's the first thing that popped in my head.
Yeah, see, I think the odds on orange are the highest, but see, I would say blue because I think that Carolina's going to have blue Gatorade, and I think Carolina's going to win the game. So, I think
call.
if you bet orange, you're betting on the Broncos to win.
You see, like these are little funny prop bets, but like a lot of analysis goes into it.
People are betting thousands of dollars on these topics. On what color Gatorade?
If I was a gambling man, we were talking about, I would be tempted to do the coin flip.
There's got to be an insider trading option to this. There's got to be somebody I can call on the training staff or something and be like, "Yo, what Gatorade are you guys making?" And then from there, you talk to Carolina, you talk to Denver, and you just decide who you think's going to win, and there's your bet.
I wouldn't doubt if there's a guy who does analysis on this, because there's guys who do statistical analysis on
If there's
everything.
fantasy analysis, there could be prop betting.
We have a future in this. This is what we should go into.
If this radio thing doesn't work out.
Or you can combine it.
I mean, Joe, you're a good host and all, but you never know. Sometimes luck runs out. It's not luck, though. It's pure
Where was the
talent,
exit
baby.
door? Was it right there
Yes,
that you
sir.
could just skedaddle from?
Final prop bet question.
Yeah, 'cause I'm gonna go to break.
Who will the Super Bowl MVP mention first? God, team, the city/fans, coach, or family? And then, or he doesn't mention any. So God is at 2-1. Team is at 2-1. City/fans is at 6-1. I think that's an awfully good bet. 6-1 are pretty good odds because I mean, like that's a lot of return on your investment. Not to mention, how often do they say like, "We got the best fans in the world"?
Yeah, but that's typically always at the end, because after the speech, you want to get that really good hurrah.
Yeah, that's true.
You see, if this was
I mean,
like,
God's a good one.
if it was the Academy Awards or the Oscars, I probably would go with God.
I go Fan City because I think, well, the Panthers, when Cam Newton's that kind of guy, and I don't think neither quarterback is as religious as, let's say, Russell Wilson is, where that's the first thing that would come to Wilson.
Yeah.
I don't think if the Broncos win, which I don't see them winning, I don't see Peyton going with family first, like mom or dad. I just don't see that.
Yeah, I have no.
Well, because he won one with Indianapolis, and he didn't mention them first. He didn't mention Archie or anybody first.
He thanked the Bears.
Yeah, so I think he thinks Grossman. Yeah. I think Carolina's going to win the game, and because of that, I think Cam Newton, who's going to be the Super Bowl MVP, I think he's going to mention Mama first.
Mama first. Well,
he's
that
that
means
kind of
family, which
yeah.
is 15-1. So that's a pretty big bet.
I'm going with it. That's
okay,
great odds.
Yeah, that is actually fantastic odds. You throw $10 on that, $150 coming back. I like it.
Wow.
Yeah. How much money you making, Joey? Monopoly money, of course. That is.
I don't make Monopoly money.
I'll make you a sandwich prop bet. I think that's fair to say on air. I say Cam Newton thanks the fans before he thanks his mama.
Love it.
All right, so that's a sandwich.
What kind of sandwich?
That's a witch from downstairs.
There we go.
Oh.
And so, okay, next week, when we're on the air, you can make me that when he thanks the fans first before his mother, which I disagree. I would thank my mother first, obviously, but then you owe me the sandwich on air.
Love it.
Okay, perfect. And I'll eat it. I'll eat it into the microphone.
And I'll bring the
promise
Monopoly money I don't have. And then we'll all be equal.
Sandwich bet. I'm looking forward to it. Cam, you better, when you win this Super Bowl, you better thank the fans before mom. Even though you should thank your mother, you're going to thank the fans first.
So let's take a break here. We're going to shift gears, talk a little all-star sports, and then maybe we'll get to a couple more prop bets on here I was looking at the end of the show, give you our predictions. Eli Schwadron, 640 for Illini men's basketball. And just to keep you inclined here, last two prop bets that maybe we can go over at the end of the show. What color will Beyonce's footwear be when she comes out on stage?
I have got huge opinions
And the one you mentioned before the show, will Left Shark make an appearance on stage during Super Bowl halftime? Tweet at us at Illini Drive. Text us 217-337-1071. 217-337-1071. This is Illini Drive on Champ Alternative WPGU 1071.
WPGU 1071, Urbana-Champaign.
Welcome back into Illini Drive, your home on the way home for Illini Sports every Monday at 6. Joey Gilman alongside Jeff Omer, Dan Collins, and Kevin McCarthy. I get it right that time?
Yeah, you did it in the right order.
Yay!
Always saving the best for last. It's usually me last. I like it.
We were a little late on that break, so we're going to go about 8 to 10 minutes or so, talk about all-star games. And the NHL one was this weekend. 3-on-3 format, very different than before, and the whole John Scott hero story is really something that highlighted the weekend at least. And to to the demise or displeasure of the NHL. So I guess starting off here, I know if you didn't watch the whole game, that's okay. But first reaction kind of to the NHL's version, what they try to do, try to garner a little more excitement about the All-Star game where other sports haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah, I'll give the NHL credit in a moment for like the skills competition. They generated a lot of interest there. But here's the thing with the whole John Scott saga. I think we should just say, for those who don't know, they allowed fans to vote on the All-Star game, and fans all got around John Scott, who, if you don't know, is a 6'8" goon defenseman from Phoenix. He used to play for the Blackhawks for a while. Has more fighting major penalties than he does NHL goals and assists combined. The guy, he's 33 years old, and it hardly made an NHL roster. He's like a fourth-line enforcer. Anyway, he generated the most number of votes out of anybody in the NHL to make the All-Star team, and therefore, by the NHL's rule, was the captain. Here's my thing. I think fan voting is the stupidest thing ever. But if you're going to put it into place, then you need to follow through. And the NHL tried everything in their power to block him from coming.
They even traded him.
Yeah, they got two teams to agree on a trade, so he'd be in a different division. So then he couldn't captain the Pacific Division where he got voted in. But then once that fell through, they tried to send him down to the minor leagues to argue that, well, he can't be on an NHL roster because he's in the minors. And then they tried to call him. John Scott came out in the Players Tribune and wrote an article saying that he got calls from people at the front office of the NHL asking him not to come and play. And he said, he quoted the guy who, he wouldn't say who called, but he quoted him as saying, "Do you think your kids would be proud of you for this?"
Good line.
They did everything they could.
But why?
Because they're idiots and they have the worst PR ever.
Gary Bettman, contract extension.
I mean, everybody hates the NHL commissioner, Gary Bettman, and they made it even worse by doing this. Look, if you're going to have fan voting, you need to follow through. You can't say, all right, we're going to allow the fans to vote. Oh, wait, now? Okay, you want this player? Okay, you're not allowed to have this player. And that's what they try to do.
It's weird.
It's unbelievable.
Here's my thing. I don't agree with you by saying that fan voting is idiotic. I used to think that way. Remember the Celebrity All-Star Game a few years back when Justin Bieber beat out Scottie Pippen for Celebrity MVP? Don't know if you remember that one, but basically Justin
Your favorite historical event ever?
He Biebs, and this is one like he actually had like the funky hairdo. He was like a little boy at the time.
Oh, I remember.
Definitely didn't deserve it. Scottie Pippen did. And I was like, oh my gosh, fan voting, terrible. But I agree with the fan voting, and for the one reason why I think the NHL did the All-Star Game and all the festivities right this year is because they embrace that it's just this circus show. Like, did you see?
They did not embrace it though. For the last,
they were so goofy with it.
For they were this weekend, but for the last few months they pushed They did a good job this weekend, no doubt.
Right.
But for the last few months they've been doing everything they could to try to get John Scott not to come, and it was terrible PR.
Which is terrible, but when the weekend came, they did it right. It's just a circus show, which is what all All-Star games are. It's just about the fans and the voting and who do you want to see out there. The only thing I don't agree with, they got it right at the end, but Johnny Tays missing a game, like a regular season game, because he missed the All-Star weekend has to be the worst rule in sports. Come up with a rule that's worse in any major sport.
That rule is a fantastic rule because if you don't enforce that rule, then every single player, none of these guys, the veterans, guys like Jonathan Taves who have done it every year since they've been in the league, they don't want to be there. You know, certain players do, no doubt, if it's their first or second time or they're younger. There's some guys who get in all the festivities. But a guy like Jonathan Taves or Alexander Ovechkin, who both weren't there this weekend, they don't want to be there. And look, if you're going to argue that it's for the fans, then you need to have the best players there. And so if you don't make some sort of penalty, guys aren't going to show up. You need to have some rule. And even though the Jonathan Taves one was silly because he actually had a legitimate reason and was actually sick,
yes,
it's different because then you can make up an injury. So then Alexander Ovechkin could have made up an injury or whomever, and then you would say, well, I'm not going because of this made up injury, and soon the whole league isn't partaking in this event. If it's for the fans, the best players need to be there, and they're not going to be there unless you make some sort of effort to keep them there, and a penalty on the other side, a game suspension, will keep players in the All-Star game. It's necessary. Otherwise, they won't go.
That's why just do away with All-Star games, which won't happen for various economic reasons. But I think that's goofy. What if Jonathan Tays had a serious rib injury, which he still had a serious enough illness to where he couldn't play, and then he's going to miss a regular season game? Like, what if the Blackhawks weren't the Blackhawks and had like this where they practically already, like, not mathematically, but they basically already clinched their playoff ticket.
Yeah.
What if they were, like, kind of fighting for that last spot, and you need a guy like Jonathan Tays, and he's going to sit out what would be a crucial game? Come on.
Well, he needs to at least be there because, look, what happens is what has happened in the Pro Bowl. You get guys like Jameis Winston that end up showing up at the Pro Bowl because there's so many reserves because all the top guys can't go for whatever reason. If you don't put a penalty, guys will stop showing up, and then you end up
Which
with
is fine.
But then
No,
something else has to change
that's
because
not
then
fine.
it's a culture of an all-star game thing now is the issue. Because it used to be this big honor, and you could say you're an all-star, and that's like one of the biggest achievements besides probably winning a championship. And now nobody cares, and the players don't want to go. And so now you have to enforce penalties to get guys to go. It's not
terrible.
ideal, but it's the only way to keep it accountable.
Okay.
So
Paul Kowalczyk, it's not ideal.
It's a bad double-edged sword.
No, but here's what I would argue is if you did away with fan voting, then we wouldn't have this problem anymore. Because what fan voting encourages is silly players getting elected to the All-Star game. For example, Kobe Bryant is a Western Conference All-Star starter this year. Kobe Bryant should not be in the game. He is not a good basketball player anymore at all. Legacy has nothing to do with the All-Star game. The All-Star game is who's the best players or who are the best players right now. Voting should be done by the coaches and the players, and then it would be an honor because you'd be being elected by your peers, the people who know the game best. The reason people have stopped caring is because it's become a big joke because the fans make it into the joke.
But then it's a combination of a joke and real, and that's what's weird. It's like with baseball. That's why I don't like the baseball All-Star game because, okay, it's this
goofy.
It's this fanfare, middle of the summer, fun, cool home run derby All-Star game event. Oh, by the way, it counts for home field advantage in the World Series.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it doesn't work like that. You can't have the best of both worlds, but you've got to change something. And I don't know, I was hearing a couple things today, whether that's you don't do a game, but you make it more of a skills challenge in different areas. You have a different style because it just doesn't have that same allure to the players anymore, and they're making so much money that even the players themselves nor the owners want these guys to go because if they get hurt, it's like Paul George in the FIBA basketball stuff.
Certainly, yeah.
And then with baseball, if you partake in the home run derby, you might mess up your swing for the rest of the season. It can happen. It's just goofy. Why would you do that? If I was a slugger, I would never participate in the home run derby. Why? It might have negative effects on me.
See, I disagree with you. I think that the skills competitions are the things what get people going, and I think the players do get excited. I don't know about you guys, but the things I get most excited for on All-Star weekends, my number one would be the dunk contest. Everybody loves the dunk contest, and I think that when the good players used to actually compete, when it was Blake Griffin versus Dwight Howard, and they threw like Nate Robinson in there for fun, or back way before we were born,
and
when it was Jordan and Clyde and Dominique,
Me.
like, that was Joey Gelman at 5'7", like.
Oh, please.
That was when it was fun, right? And so even 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, it was fun. And then 10 years ago, it was great. You had Kobe versus Tracy McGrady and Vince Carter. That's what makes it interesting is the skills competitions. The home run derby when Josh Hamilton was popping 30 out of Yankee Stadium. That was fun.
He was popping more things, but yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's way too soon. That's mean. That's absolutely mean. Shouldn't joke about that. But anyway, these are the fun things. It's the skills competitions. The NHL on Saturday night, they did the hard shot competition, the accuracy competition, the shootout. All that stuff is fun. So do away with the silly games and focus more on these competitions, these skills competitions, because that's what fans want.
Don't get me wrong. I totally love the skills competitions, especially in basketball and hockey. I'm just saying, in particular with baseball, the home run derby is a little eh.
It's not going to mess up your swing. These guys have been playing baseball their whole lives. Let's think about
Back.
There was a lot of conversation about this last year with Anthony Rizzo because he's a Cub and he was doing it. A lot of participating in the home run derby. A lot of Cubs fans were worried about that. Anthony Rizzo is 25 years old and he's been playing baseball since he was a little kid. Do you think he forgets how to swing because he tried to hit a few home runs for one day? He takes 30 swings at this home run derby and now suddenly his picturesque swing would be ruined? No, that's a bunch of garbage. Players who don't want to compete because they're worried about getting injured and probably because they play 162 games a year and could use some time with their families.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it would make it a little bit more of an honor, this going back to an earlier argument, if you did away with the fan voting and just let, coaches and people like that decide. But then again, if the All-Star games are all about the fans, why wouldn't they be able to vote? Fans are goofy. They vote in goofy ways, but you can't take away fan voting if it's a weekend or a week dedicated to the fans.
Why don't you give the fans power to choose like who wins the skills competitions or things like that? There can be fan voting there, and they've incorporated that in the past, and it's done well, like with the dunk competitions and stuff. But I mean, really, what I think would be best for the fans is if the best players were competing on the biggest stage, and that's what it was for a long time. And now we have John Scott there.
But you have to remember too, and especially for, and then we'll go to break. Especially for baseball. The All-Star Game used to be the only time you would see American National League players play against each other. And now, with interleague play, I mean, you see every team play almost every other team at least every year, every other year. And so it's different, where that was like a marquee thing where you want to see the best guys the best players playing on the biggest stage in that game. And same with, maybe a lot of East-West Coast basketball crossover or NHL crossover. Now the divisions, everything has all changed. So it's a little different now, and just that allure is kind of gone, I think. And you got to change it, like we've said. And while you want to see the guys on that biggest stage has changed where you get to see it more. Or hell, even cable. I mean, the fact that you can see Steph Curry play every night, you couldn't see that 10, 15 years ago. So it's different where there's more exposure for these guys now, where the grandiose spectacle of the All-Star Game has lost a little bit of its allure.
I definitely agree with that because of how much these guys are in the media now, how often we can see the best players play. It pulls it back a little bit. But I do think that by having the coaches and the players decide who makes the games, I think it becomes a bigger honor then. Because now it's just all the fan favorites and then occasionally some goon, like like the John Scott situation. But that's, like Kobe making the All-Star Game. He knows he doesn't deserve to be there. And I think players would be more honored if it was truly the best players that were getting in there. And I think it puts such a disadvantage to guys in small markets. If you're in San Diego, even like a mid-sized market, if you're in San Diego, if you're in, Oakland, if you're in Green Bay has a huge fan base in the NFL. But you get what I'm saying. If you're in these mid-sized markets, you're going to have a very difficult time getting into an All-Star Game because it's so much about the guys in the big cities who everybody knows and loves.
Let's take a quick break here. Eli Schwadron will be on at around 6:40 with us. So we'll come back in a minute and preview a little bit what we're going to talk about with him and debate a little bit about basketball. Then he's going to come on and give us his thoughts as he's one of the reporters here for the Daily Illini covering everything that is men's basketball. You're listening to Illini Drive on Champaign's Alternative WPGU 107.1.
Twitter.com/WPGU 1071. WPGU 1071. Urbana-Champaign.
Obviously a grinder, which we kind of knew that going in. Offensively, we struggled. We 11 turnovers doesn't seem like a lot probably when you look at it on most nights, but in a low possession game, that needs to be single digits. So we've got to play better. Today we needed to finish 2-point field goals better. We need to take care of the ball better.
Welcome back into Illini Drive, your home on the way home for Illini Sports every Monday at 6. Joey Gilman alongside Dan Collins, Jeff Omer, and Kevin McCarthy. We shift gears here, Illini basketball. They fell to Wisconsin yesterday. Eli Schwadron is here. He's a Daily Illini reporter for men's basketball. Share us with his insight about just a boring game yesterday. That's all I can really say about it. I mean, two teams did play, but there was really not much to take away.
You're supposed to put the ball in the hoop, right?
Really?
Yeah, because neither team seemed to know. Illinois certainly didn't.
Eli, how are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on, as always. You guys didn't tell me to grow out my beard for the show.
See, we're trying to clean up, and then he kept his, so it makes us look bad again.
Trust me, this is much better than last week. Last week, nobody had shaved for a solid 2 weeks, and it was gross.
Maybe that's why UPTV didn't come back.
Yeah, seriously. We scared them away. We smelled so bad and looked so bad.
It was John Gross. But I will say this. Eli, now that you're here, we go back and forth with what this Illinois men's basketball team is. And I guess the only question I can ask, because we play like a broken record here. All this team has, they don't have no bigs. They don't have a solid enough point guard. All they have is shooting guards. Well, they have Hill and Nunn. They run the show. They probably took over 50% of the shots yesterday. Yeah. But is there something maybe Gross is missing? Can you strategize the offense a little differently, perhaps, to where maybe it's not just Hill and Nunn running the show? You might be quick to say yes, but think about it. Is there something else you can maybe do, get a little innovative to where you have a little bit of a better offense than just Nunn and Hill shooting threes all day?
That's a great question, DC. This is something that I was talking about with Alex Rue yesterday. I think that, it's at that point in the season where I think Gross just needs to experiment a little bit. And, if you just stats, I'm not a huge stats guy, but you just look at the stats, 0 points out of either point guard. That's not acceptable in the Big Ten or at any conference in college basketball, really. So, I mean, you could try putting Malcolm Hill at point guard. You could try JCL at point guard. It's also that point in the season, maybe, gone in for an NIT at this point. Maybe try getting some of the younger guys some more experience, get them some extra clock. I would love to see DJ Williams get some more time. He only had 4 minutes yesterday. Also, the substitutions are just weird. I don't understand really what Gross is doing, but there's a lot of basketball to be played, so we'll see.
Well, because, at this point, what do you have to lose? If you get a little innovative and the fans, people see that, their reaction to you, even say you do lose, then you could say, well, at least he tried something instead of just the same old formula that's obviously not working. You're doing the same thing over and over again, and you're getting the same results. So, my statement would just be, what do you have to lose? If you just get a little tricky in there, JCL, maybe at point guard, who knows?
Well, yeah, because, we talked about it yesterday at the game. Those substitution packages, if you will, are so rigid that you had a game yesterday that started out with Nunn and Finke hitting a couple threes and getting you going. And then right off the bat, when the first substitution comes in, they're out. No matter if they were the two guys that kept you rolling. Nothing. It's like there's still that idea that we keep talking about of the lack of adjustment as the season goes on.
Yeah, you got to be flexible. Especially with those young guys, a lot of it is confidence. I feel like if guys hit a couple shots, why, like you said, why stick to that rigid substitution pattern? Let them get in a little bit of a rhythm. Let them get in a little bit of a zone. They're used to scoring 30 points in high school. Let them try to get their shots up at the college level. They're young, and obviously you want to give minutes to the transfers and some of the older guys, but you're 10 and 12, you're third to last. What are we in the Big Ten? You got to, like DC said right off the bat, you got to experiment. You got to be innovative a little bit.
And if you're John Gross, you mentioned at this point, you're really just gunning for the NIT because any hope of...
They should make posters for that all across the
campus. There you go. you're not going to be playing in
it almost spells
the
win.
field of 64. Unless you magically win the Big Ten tournament, but that's not going to happen. They're going to lose in the first round. So if you're John Gross, how do you motivate this team for the rest of the year so that you can try to have something tangible and some sort of takeaway at the end of the year?
Well, another good question. That's something that he kind of touched on in the presser after the Wisconsin game. He pointed to the defense, which, if you want to talk positives, the defense has been really, really solid, really stout the past few games. Gave up only 63 yesterday, 68 to OSU. So that's one takeaway. He was talking about Latulip, obviously a veteran of the team, who was really adamant about how great the defense has been. But like you said, Kevin, you gotta put the ball in the bucket. So, yeah. What do you guys think? What?
Well, I don't know. You kind of touched on this already, but I'm looking here at the stat sheet. Tate and Lewis combined for 0 for 5 from the floor yesterday. I think it would be a little too general to just say the point guards are terrible, which obviously that's terrible. They're 0 for 5 from the floor. But is there a little more to it than just them being terrible? Is John Gross maybe keeping them out of their comfort zone? Should he maybe adjust their point guard role instead of the John Gross point guard role? 0 for 5 yesterday. I feel like, they're playing in the Big Ten for a reason. They're here for a reason. To go 0 for 5 from the floor, is there just a little more something to that?
And you had 40 minutes of play between two of them and no points.
Jalen Tate is just scared to shoot because he can't shoot. And Khalid Lewis is not the quickest of guys, not the most athletic of guys. Neither of them are score-first point guards. Neither of them are that creative of passers either. They're fine ball handlers, but Jalen Tate has some crazy stat where he's like 2 for 40 in his career from 3-point land, and that's
Sounds like a
that's
stat line
ridiculous.
we would have.
Yeah, you could go out there and make three.
Okay, not
threes.
Joey. Joey could.
Okay.
Maybe Dan.
Come
could.
on. I'm short
Either
but
way.
like quick, and I can just I will cut to the basket. I like this Illinois team.
Okay, with this point guard conversation question, this is or conversation. Here's my question for you, Eli. Can we finally put to bed this whole conversation about John Gross being a point guard coach? Can we agree that he's not? He champions himself as a point guard coach. His point guards are terrible at the game of basketball.
Yeah, I don't know why people tend to think that. I do like the idea of trying JCL a little bit at the point. He shows flashes of a Brandon Paul-like player at times. You could see how, once Nunn and Hill graduate, he'll be a junior by then. You could see how he could step into that, take over the game type of player, because he does show flashes of it. He's kind of one-dimensional right now. He needs to get better at driving to the basket. It was more of just a straight-up jump shooter right now, but you guys agree that he could reach that level eventually?
Perhaps, but I mean, like Kevin was saying, John Gross is supposed to be a point guard coach. If he doesn't get a pink slip this season, and Tracy Abrams comes back and can actually play next season,
And I forgot you have John Lucas too.
Yeah, but if they have subpar years, Gross is definitely out by that point. But once again, looking at the stat sheet, JCL 1 for 4 from the floor, and that's actually somebody I was a little high on. I remember all our basketball writers were pretty high on JCL before the season even started and a couple games in. So what is it there? Is it just streaky shooter and he was having an off night, or is he now just catching a bad case of the Illini blues and we don't even have JCL to turn to in the corner anymore?
Well, he had a team violation this week, and so that's what happened yesterday. He didn't play till the 8:51 mark in the first half. So
He still went 1 for 4.
right.
No,
no
for
question.
3
He
from the
shouldn't have
yard.
as many minutes. But yeah, that's something. I mean, you've mentioned those flashes, and we see them. We just got to find them consistently. But they still all rely on the perimeter play and 3-point shot. And well, if your team lives and dies by that, well, it's not ideal. I keep saying that. I mean, I got Kowalczyk in my brain. Well, it's not the best. When you're hot, I guess it works. But I not once yesterday did we see any offensive plays that were kind of going to the basket. Everyone kind of just stood around the perimeter, and that just seemed weird to me. Whether that's if you're missing that point guard play to distribute it, sure. But you got to move around the court. Everyone was kind of just standing, and we keep asking. The offense gets stagnant. What is going on? And they're like, we just got to move the ball. Then move the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record, but it's just time after time, nothing changes.
Multiple times I seen 5 Illini players standing on the arc, like everybody was just surrounding the
It's like
three-point
middle
line.
school basketball.
You know why? It's because our starting center is Maverick Morgan.
But
That doesn't
here's
help.
the thing: if you're obviously going to get outnumbered on the board statistically, so if you shoot low percentage shots, that's going to be a lot of rebound opportunities, and you don't got the guys to grab those rebounds.
Yeah.
So like Joey said, I mean, Eli, what's your opinion on this? Why don't you get something going to where you have some kind of pick and roll situation or something where you dish the ball to Hill and then he just tries to take it up to the hoops and like have him try
Yeah.
to finish at
Yeah.
the rim or something instead of shooting at the 3?
Yeah, and every presser, Malcolm Hill always says the right thing. He's great at saying, let the game come to me. You can tell he's a really good facilitator, but he's also definitely the best player on this team. And at some point, you gotta, if your teammates aren't that good, you gotta try to take over the game, my man. Like, you gotta be more. Obviously, he put up 12 shots yesterday, went 6 for 12. At this point, I wouldn't even mind you shooting friggin' 18 to 20 times. Like, same with Nunn. Nunn had a off game shooting wise, but whatever. Like, you guys are by far the best players. Just do your thing out there. Like,
Yeah, your offense lives and dies through them. Yeah.
If you're living and dying by the 3, you might as well, play at a really high pace. Just jack up threes with Nunn, Hill, JCL instead of this like wishy-washy, like what's going on type of offense.
Is the real reason that they can't? Is the reason they don't go to the post simply a personnel issue? Is it just because your 2 best big men right now are Michael Finke and Mav Morgan, or do you think if John Gross did have decent big men, he would get the ball down there, or is it really just his type of offensive style to jack up the 3?
Well, Finke isn't even a low post player to start with. He's a stretch four. Like that's a prototypical player in the NBA right now. Not so much. The college game is still pretty much dominated by like typical big men. Mav Morgan player, and he'd be a fine. We were talking about this yesterday. He'd be a fine backup center in the Big Ten, but he just doesn't. No knock on Mav. He's a great dude off the court. You know, he has really good games occasionally, but he's not consistent enough skill wise in the paint.
So would you say that there's just no way that you could reinvent a Michael Finke's game or a Maverick Morgan's game, like for the benefit of the team? Would you say they just don't have the talent to kind of have a reinvented game, to maybe teach Maverick Morgan or Michael Finke to bang in the post a little bit, or is that they just don't have the talent to do so?
There's still time with Fink, but I mean Morgan, I don't know, like he's not gonna go shoot the three. He's one-dimensional post player, and he's just not as talented as guys like Diamond Stone and Thomas Bryant and other Big Ten bangers. So it just hurts that Thorne is still. We have no clue what's going on with him. No.
Yeah, they asked yesterday. Still no word on if he's coming back anytime soon. Yeah, around Black. And then, injuries yesterday to Finke and Nunn don't help either. They don't seem too serious, but I think Finke was going for an MRI today. Didn't hear anything yet about that. We're talking with Eli Schwadron here, Daily Illini men's basketball reporter. And I guess, looking at these stat lines here, and, when we switch to Wisconsin, you have a guy like Khalil Iverson and Vito Brown. And these guys, play for Wisconsin, but never really lit up the stat sheet. And I think it was Iverson had 10 points total the entire season. Last night goes for 10, so him and Brown combined 19. And I guess you can't really plan for that, but how do you allow... because Gross praised the defense, but if you're letting guys like that score, did they just have a good night, or was there kind of a breakdown of, all right, these guys weren't in the scouting report, but then we, again, didn't adjust to them kind of taking over a game?
Yeah,
it may not be that big of a deal.
They had
just
fine
curious.
games, 10 points, 11 points. I think they did. That's a good point, and even, like you said, Gross acknowledged that in the post-game presser.
Mm-hmm.
But I think overall they did play solid defense. Wisconsin's not a good team this year. Let's face it. Illinois was just the worst team yesterday. I don't think they shot a free throw until the second half. Wisconsin, that is. So that's a good thing for Illinois. And they went they shot a horrible percentage until late in the game. So and 2 for 14 from 3. So did a good job, solidifying the 3-point arc. Illinois just didn't have it offensively yesterday. Nigel Hayes ended up with 17 points, but it was a quiet 17, 7 of them from the free throw line. So overall, I don't think the Badgers are a problem either. Illinois is just way worse.
Yeah, and moving forward now, I think a lot of people are kind of wondering what some of these younger players can do. You touched on the fact that you hope that you start to see more minutes from guys like Aaron Jordan or DJ Williams. What do you think Gross is going to do now that this season's officially over? It's not officially over, but you can write this one away. It's done. What kind of minutes do you think those guys will get moving forward?
I can't predict. I would hope that I mentioned DJ Williams specifically because he only got 4 minutes. Aaron Jordan did play 15, and he had a good game, 3 for 4, and he started yesterday. So he's a guy that you could look to maybe getting 20-plus minutes a game. DJ, obviously, maybe in the 10-plus range. These young guys, that we're at that point, like you said, where you need to get them experience, get them, ready for next year and the year after that. And these Big Ten games are really important in terms of player development when you're that young. So I don't know if I think he's going to do that, but hopefully. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of the point guard play, I wonder if this correlates because they had 11 turnovers yesterday. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're playing bad basketball, you also don't want to turn the ball over in double digits. They were also pretty bad against Ohio State. In particular, Malcolm Hill just really sloppy with the ball at the end of the fourth quarter and in overtime. So what can be attributed to that high amount of turnovers? Is it they don't have a good enough point guard to facilitate the offense, or there's just a stagnant offense? I mean, what are the biggest reasons for double digits in turnovers and just being sloppy with the ball game in and game out now?
Well, 11 turnovers, actually, like, that's not that bad, but it is that bad when you realize there's such a low possession game. This is something that Gross touched on yesterday also after the game. There were so few possessions. It was kind of a snooze fest.
Yeah.
In terms of, there was like one kind of cool dunk by, I think, Nigel Hayes in the first half. Other than that, pretty uneventful game overall, but there's so few possessions, so 11 turnovers with so few possessions is kind of bad, but Jalen Tate and Khalid Lewis, that's no indictment on their play. JT had 1 turnover. Khalid didn't have any turnovers. They're fine ball handlers. They're just not that skilled in terms of passing and scoring the ball. So, I mean, 4 games ago, we see a guy like Yogi Ferrell go off for like 19 and 11, and that's just Illinois is never gonna get close to that.
Yeah,
in
not
terms
this
of point
season.
guard play this season.
And I mean, I think really with the turnovers and all these problems that we keep talking about, it's very simple. When basketball players, you're going to make bad basketball plays. And so it's that simple. But anyway, the big question that I've been wondering and thinking about all year, and people have heard me bring this argument up a lot, is John Gross's hot seat at this point. The hiring of a new athletic director is imminent at this point. I would say within the next week or two, you're going to have somebody new in place. And one of the biggest decisions they're going to have to make is what to do here with Gross moving forward. Do you think that Gross absolutely deserves one more year, or do you think it's fair to really sit down and think if he needs to be done?
I think he deserves one more year, and if he doesn't come through next year, he's gone. But just because of all the injuries and all the craziness with suspensions and, off-season Darius Paul going ham in France.
Going ham in France.
Yeah, like,
That's
I mean,
song.
there's been so much controversy with this basketball team since really last season ended. So I think he deserves that 1 year, and then if he doesn't, if he can't put a successful basketball team on the floor next year, like, he's got to go.
I think this is the question a lot of people have. Keeping the scope on the future. Kev already hit on it. You could just write this one up, chalk it away, throw it out the window. This season is done. You get the NIT at best. So let's just say it is Gross next year. He's manning the team with the players you have coming back. And let's just say you have a full healthy squad. How much better can this team be? Because that's what you have to be thinking if you're an Illini fan. Well, another rough year. If we have a healthy team, we are this much better. What is this much better?
I think this much better can mean just more wins in the Big Ten. I mean, think about it. Kendrick Nunn and Malcolm Hill are, you could argue Hill is definitely top 5 player in the Big Ten. You could argue that Nunn is too. He's definitely top 10, in my opinion. And that's just one more year of them getting better, working in the offseason. Then you look at guys like that we've touched on this entire segment, Jalen Coleman-Lands, Aaron Jordan, these guys that are going to – Finke is going to probably have a great season next year. Just like that extra work in the offseason is going to do wonders for these guys, especially with all the resources that they have at U of I.
But does that result in a tournament appearance? I mean, because if you think about it, with Nunn and Hill, I was talking to someone about this today. It's their senior year already next year. So I mean, if you can imagine a scenario, you preach to them to come here to turn around this program and build it around you, and then to never make a tournament with them in 4 years.
Yeah, is that the mark?
You know
That's
what I
what
mean?
the question
Like,
should be. Is it tournament or bust for Gross's legacy or for his job? So you're saying he deserves next year. So if he doesn't make the tournament, is he out? Is that the standard?
It
I know it's a
depends.
high standard, but it
depends on how you look at it because, me personally, I'm not from the Champaign area, and I know that a lot of U of I fans look to the all these years in a row that we made the tournament. I'm more of a I'm from Washington D.C. where our sports teams are awful my entire life. So I'm kind of like, well, if you get close, it's like, all right, but you know what I mean. So, in terms,
lovable loser.
I don't think next year's team is a tournament team. No, but I think we can get really close.
But how can you say it's a high standard when, like you said, Hill and Nunn are arguably 2 top 10 players in the Big Ten, and then if you have Tracy Abrams, who's a good enough, point guard coming back, and then you have decent bigs.
I mean, it shouldn't be a high standard, but it is for.
It's not a high standard. You're 2 hours and 40 minutes from Chicago, which is a basketball mecca. This is such an easy standard. You should make the tournament year in and year out. I think Gross should be gone.
I guess I personally don't think it's a high standard, but it seems like it is for this team.
It is for John Gross, apparently. Yeah. 4 years and you can't do it. Sorry. See ya. Gone. Because I don't care how many injuries you have, and the whole argument around suspensions is kind of poor because isn't your job as a coach to be able to control your players? And he hasn't. So, I mean, it's just tough. I get the injuries, and I get that this was a tough year for him to try and make something work. But look, you're 2 hours and 40 minutes away from a basketball mecca. You need those guys. You need to recruit those guys, get those guys on your team, and you're in the Big Ten. Make the flipping tournament. 64 teams, or more now, 68
so
teams
then
make it.
So then he's gone because there's no chance
He's
Chicago
gone.
guys are going to Kansas, Kentucky, Duke.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to find somebody who can get them to stop going there. In my opinion, Gross should be gone. And my biggest argument around it, too, also is he can't even get his guys up for games anymore. They just completely looked ridiculous against Indiana, and then they had no decent offensive scheme or goal or objectives in either the Ohio State or the Wisconsin game. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to watch them. Like you said, it's a snooze fest. This Illinois basketball team has been a year-long snooze fest. It's so hard to watch.
And on
See
that,
you, John Gross.
And on that note, we got to get out of here. Eli, thanks for jumping on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys.
That's Eli Schwadron. He is the Daily Illini men's basketball reporter for the Daily Illini. That's going to do it for us here, as it's already 7 o'clock. We could stay for 3 more hours, but then the bat phone will ring and we'll get yelled at. So, no UPTV today, unfortunately, but you can get all of our podcasted show content on dailyillini.com. Full show will be up there, as well as our interview with Eli here. Get you caught up on men's basketball. They take on Rutgers next. At Illini Drive is the Twitter handle at @DI_sports. Stay tuned with everything there for Illinois sporting news. For Jeff Omer, Dan Collins, and Kevin McCarthy, I'm Joey Gowan. Thanks for listening. This is your home on the way home for Champaign sports and Illinois sports, because I already messed up my own catchphrase. Can we start over? This is your home on the way home for Illini sports and Champaign Alternative.
Nice.
WPGU 107.1.
Killed it.